everybody. Welcome to the Leadership Mastermind podcast. I'm your host, Mitch Peak, and this is my co-host, Laura Brandeo. Hello, Laura.
Hello, Mitch. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing awesome. I'm excited for today's podcast episode.
Absolutely. Well, we have the lovely Megan Anderson with us, and she is the Vice President of Marketing at MBS Highway, the industry's leading platform for mortgage sales professionals. Megan has eliminated the fears and the obstacles that mortgage and real estate salespeople have in creating video content. Her innovative trainings have transformed them from salespeople to celebrity advisors. Megan is a 2020 Housingwire Women of Influence Award winner, as well as a 2019 Women with Vision Award and the 2019 40 Under 40 Award winner. Well, Megan, thank you so much for being with us today. And Mitch, let's get started.
Awesome. Well, hello, Megan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right. Well, I want to get things started right off the bat here for our audience. So tell us, what are your 3 key pillars to leadership?
You guys really spring on the hard questions here. I would say some of the key aspects to leadership is you got to be curious. You got to be a forever learner, which they kind of go hand in hand. You have to have a drive, and you have to be willing to listen.
Those are very, very good. All right, so let's start to unpack each of them, okay? So, forever learner, tell me, what does that mean to you? What do you do in order to stay up on all the different things happening? And I know before we hit record, we were actually speaking about some changes in social media. So maybe tell us a little bit of how you integrate that into your average day.
Well, for starters, I think it's so important to be a forever learner because, I like to think of the analogy, you go to the doctor. You go to the doctor, and let's say you see a doctor that once he graduated, he never picked up a book again. Well, you don't really want to go to that doctor versus the doctor that is consistently learning about new things that are out there, different ways to do different things. You want to go to that doctor. And it really correlates to whatever industry and space that you're in. You have to be curious and passionate about learning everything about it. And it's always evolving. And you bring up social media. Well, being the VP of marketing at MBS Highway, that is one thing that I kind of have to stay on top of is what is happening in the social media realm. And how do we adopt for that so that loan originators and real estate agents can build their business and solidify themselves as a trusted mortgage professional.
So let me ask you this. We all know you as the video queen. So what are you doing with social media? How are you going out to find out the changes in social media, like we talked about with Reels and Instagram, LinkedIn, Clubhouse? Are you going out and searching for new ideas and new changes to these social platforms?
Oh, yeah. I mean, being at MBS Highway, there's 2 things that I'm reading on a daily basis. That is one, what's happening in the market and why. And the other one is staying up to date with the different updates and avenues and different apps when it comes to social media. And, before when we were in the green room, we were talking about Instagram. And I was telling you guys, I just kind of got started with Instagram Reels, which I'm actually really late to the game on that. I avoided doing Instagram Reels. I was like, I don't want to be a person pointing at all these random things and doing these kind of videos. Like, that's not me. But I got started with Instagram Reels, and I'm so glad that I did because as with any platform, you can put your own spin on it. And it's not about creating something new. No, if you want something to go viral within social media, I do my research on this too. You hit the scroll button in the middle and you just start watching videos and you like the ones you like, you scroll past the ones you don't. And every day when you get in there, it will tailor those videos to more so what it is that you're looking at and what you're drawn to. And so all that I do to create these is I get an idea from someone else and I think, how can it be correlated to my target audience? Right. And then I simply create the video to my target audience. And I bring up the Reels because if you guys were like me and you were like, oh, I am not wanting to do that. No. Well, I just tested it and I've been testing it for the past couple of weeks and it gets me 3 times more views on my videos than normal video post would. So don't be afraid to try these things out either. If you're being consistent with social media, try these out and see how it's going to affect that algorithm and get more engagement.
That's great. And another thing we were speaking about was, I know that LinkedIn is making some changes, and Mitch was saying, Clubhouse is making some changes. So, question for you. Should you dive into a particular platform and really go all in? Should you dabble all over the place? Like, what have you seen the best success be when it comes to that?
So first off, whoever is listening to this asking themselves the same question, I want you to first address who is your target audience, because that is a key thing to dive down and consider. Because if your target audience is reverse mortgages, all these older individuals, well, you're probably not going to want to spend time on Clubhouse. You're probably not going to want to spend time on Instagram, probably not TikTok. Maybe you're better on LinkedIn or Facebook. Facebook is probably your best bet, honestly. And then, maybe your target audience are those first-time home buyers. Well, where are they spending the majority of their time? On places like Instagram and TikTok, and now there's Clubhouse. They're spending less time on Facebook. So once you dive in and you know what your target audience is, that will help you answer that question. And then what I like to tell people is, focus on building one platform to where it has an overall look and feel. So let's say you were like, okay, first time home buyers and I love Instagram. So that's what I want to do. Okay, what is Instagram about? Well, it's a picture, it's a collage of pictures. So now focus your content so it looks really beautiful and pretty when people go to your page, not, what's going on here. Focus on that, but then cross post that same post everywhere else, so that you're getting engagement from all different platforms. But again, you're spending your time, because listen, loan originators, agents that are listening to this podcast, they don't have much time. Let's be real. One of the top things we hear is, I don't have time to do this. So pick one and cross post that out. Unless you have an assistant, and then maybe, then you can do whatever you want.
Right. Well, let's talk about Reels. So I saw yours, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and you talked about the top things not to say when you go live. So let's get that out there for the audience and share that.
Yeah, so my post was 5 phrases not to start your social videos with. And this goes for anything, whether it's a live video or a video that you're going to post to social media, or a Reels, a TikTok. There's a few things you don't want to do. First off, you don't want to come on and talk about the mess in the background or how terrible you look that day and apologize to everybody, because all that's doing is showing, hey, this person's a little insecure. So why are they going to listen to your message? And how are you going to have this authoritative stance when you're just worried about what you look and if they're judging you? So first and foremost, we got to get rid of that. And if you're worried that they're going to judge you or look at your hair funny, you can be worried about that, but don't verbally state that. That doesn't do any help. And the more that you continue to do these videos, the less that you'll get like that. Another thing that I did not mention in that post, but is a good thing for people to know, is you want to start your video off, and within like half a second, at least, even like the start of the video, you want it to be the tip of your tongue starting to say whatever it is that you're saying. When we have a long pause before we say anything in that video, it's more likely that people are going to scroll through. The other thing that you really want to focus on here is you want to make sure that you start your video with a hook. And the hook is what draws that person in so that they watch the rest of the video. So in that hook, what you want to do is you want to address who the target audience is. Is it first-time home buyers? Is it people looking to refinance? Or is it those wanting a second home? Who is this video for? And then what I really love to do is pose a problem, because people attach to this problem. If I'm a first-time home buyer and I'm really discouraged because I've been looking for 12 months now and I can't find anything and inventory is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Well, if you say that in your video, that this is the problem, hey, are you a first-time home buyer that's getting discouraged looking for a house? I'm going to be like, yes, I am. Right. And then I'm going to want to watch the rest of the video. But when we come on and we say, hi, I'm Megan from XYZ Mortgage, and I'm really excited to be here with you guys today. And we have this long, drawn out introduction. It's more likely that that person is just going to scroll right through your post to someone else's.
All right. Yeah, I really enjoyed that, and the fact that you used, different what do you call it?
Filter.
Hair, yeah, filters and different
It was
hair
great.
and
It was
all
great.
that. That
It
was
was
great.
definitely captivating. Like you wanted to like check it out and say, wait a minute, let me take a moment here. So great job. That was great. What about YouTube, Megan? You definitely do hear more and more, of course, again, first time home buyers, people searching, people absolutely are going to YouTube for that also. What are your views on that? How much time should agents and originators be spending on creating channels and investing in that?
YouTube is great because it really does help with your SEO as well. Like YouTube is big for that. What I personally love to use YouTube for, and I see other people using it for, are those macro pieces of content. So those larger type content. So the video portion of this podcast, put that up on a YouTube channel. An interview that you do with an agent, put that whole interview up on YouTube. The open house that you go to and you walk around the neighborhood or whatever it might be, put that up on YouTube. But then from that larger piece of content, which might be anywhere from 10 minutes to 45 minutes to whatever, take that larger piece of content and break it down into smaller pieces that you can then go ahead and use on your social platforms like Facebook and Instagram and what have you, because that way you're working smarter instead of harder. And really the majority of your time is spent filming this large portion. And then from there, you're able to redirect people and get them engaged and also grow that YouTube channel at the same time.
Awesome. All right, let's go to number 2. You said drive is key pillar to leadership for you. So tell us, where did you get your drive? Where did you discover your drive?
Oh man, that's a loaded question. I think my drive originated to start with from my family upbringing. To be completely honest, my mom was the breadwinner of the family, and she very much instilled in me at a very young age, you have to be able to provide for yourself. You have to be able to take care of yourself. And you grow up wanting to make your parents proud at the same time. And I'm past the point where everything I do now has to make my parents proud, because at the end, I know they just want me happy. But I will say a lot of that drive came from that. And just this overall kind of voice inside my head that says, you can do it. You can achieve these things. You can be great. That is where that drive comes from. And also just a drive to help people and serve a purpose. I have never been one of those individuals where I just go about my day-to-day actions and I go to a job because I need money. It's always been a lot bigger and deeper than that. And I really encourage everyone, if you don't feel that drive right now and that larger purpose, find it. What drives you? What is your passion? What is your purpose? Because once you find that, that's going to make you exponentially better in any form of leadership that you're trying to partake in.
Very true. And just to continue along that, so Megan is part of the MBA New Jersey Women's Committee that we serve on together. And, we actually did an interview where she told her story of how she came into the mortgage industry. So can you share that with everyone? Because it's a great story.
Yes. So my whole story started back, before I was in the mortgage space, I was training people to step on stage for bodybuilding shows. And I had just graduated college. I had just launched this company. Before that, I was in a company with my ex, and then I was working in gyms, and then I went off and started my own company and my own platform. Well, meanwhile, while that was continuing to grow in Vegas, it's really easy to work different conventions and events. I don't know if it is now. I'm sure those aren't happening, but it was really easy to get these extra jobs when you would need them. And so one of them, I was working Mastermind, one of the largest real estate and mortgage conventions in the US. And that is where I met so many legends within the mortgage space. And that's where I met Barry Habib and the crew at MBS Highway. And I was at a really great kind of transition period in my life, looking for what was next. And it just happened to be MBS Highway, and the rest is history.
That's awesome. You never know. It's so cool to hear everybody's story, how they found the industry, because it's never, typically they don't go to school to become a loan officer and then they get a job to become a loan officer and then they work that same job for the rest of their career. It's never that. It's always an interesting road, an interesting path. So tell us a little bit about what you learned from your drive being, in the bodybuilding business, because I think that takes a unique individual.
Yes. So, when you step on stage for a bodybuilding show, you have to be very, very lean, and you basically have to commit to the way that I would diet is I would follow macronutrients. So I would get an allotment for carbs, fat, fiber, protein, and water intake throughout the day. And I would weigh and measure my food. I always had to go to the gym multiple times a day. There's a lot of dedication that you have to dedicate, and you have to trust the process, even when you might not see the process. And that was the first time in my life that I had ever been that dedicated to something. And that was a really powerful experience for me. But what I also saw the ugly side of it. I also saw the side where you're too much of a perfectionist, where you start to judge yourself and you have this, internal dialogue come up every time you're not perfect. And so I learned so many things from that process. But at the end of the day, when it comes to drive, I just realized that you have to put the work in, even if you don't see it. And sooner or later, it will pay off and you will reach your goal.
Yeah, that's fascinating, and what a great perspective. And it's interesting. Mitch and I were just having a conversation about how I think probably at least half of everything successful people do comes from how you think and your mindset. And a lot of what you just said, that comes from mindset, right? Being able to be that regimented and that dedicated and all of that. And a lot of that has to come from here. So how do you view that? What do you do to kind of keep in? And I know even today you posted in the MBA group something about glass ceilings and kind of being our own worst enemy. So how do you keep your mindset in a positive place and kind of, because we've all been there, and I don't want to say what happened, but the last time we met, something actually happened and we went through a learning experience, and sometimes learning experiences happen, right? And we have to get over that and we have to learn and move past. So what techniques do you use, or what lessons have you kind of grown through to say, it's okay, yes, wasn't exactly what I wanted to occur, but I learned from it, I moved forward, and now we're going on?
Yeah, so I would say one of the exercises that helps me the most is when I'm having one of those days where it's like, it starts out bad and then it just keeps getting worse and everyone's making me angry. Nothing's going right. I can't seem to do anything right. And the voice in my head is just like, I just want this day to be over. Well, when I'm in that mindset, what I do is I stop. I set a timer for 5 minutes because I can commit to 5 minutes. If I do 5 minutes, it's not going to make me feel like I'm wasting my day. It's 5 minutes. So I set a timer for 5 minutes and I bust out my notepad and I write down everything that I'm thankful for and everything that's good in my life. And that naturally that shifts me and makes me step out and realize, okay, today might not be going the best, but that doesn't mean that my whole world is a mess right now. Everything is good, and it gets me in a better mindset, because it's all about how we talk to ourselves. How we talk about ourselves in here is how we express ourselves out here. So that is one exercise and technique that helps me tremendously. Another one, and I'm not really super religious, but I pray every single morning. And I don't just, I pray for the things that I'm kind of hoping for, but I also pray for other people. And I find that when I start my morning off by praying for other people, their health, their happiness, that also gets me out of that mindset of like, it's just me and my world's bad and da-da-da. And so that helps me get out of that mindset as well. And those are two techniques that have been very helpful.
I love that because it is mental. Everything, is mental. And, you can accomplish anything you want in life if you have the right mentality that you can accomplish it. If you wake up every morning and say, I can't do something, obviously you're not going to be able to. And that's, one thing I think people struggle with the most is the fear of leveling up. So how do you come across that when you're about to level up in life? How do you get yourself in the right mindset that it's okay for you to be better?
Well, I always want to be better, but when I'm preparing myself for that mindset and I'm realizing that I'm putting kind of mental, as we talked about, glass ceilings on myself, I'll take a step back. And there comes a point where you talk so nasty to yourself in your head that you have to just take a step back and be like, okay, let's talk to myself like I was a friend or a family member right now. And that also shifts the perspective. I've been very guilty, especially in the younger years of my life, of living in a victim mindset. And it's really important that we remind ourselves that this fear of us jumping forward into a new leadership position or breaking these glass ceilings, that fear, you placed your own definition on it. So now let's take a step back and see how we can reshift the story so that we're able to move forward. We're able to break those ceilings, because it's very easy to come in and sit with that same mindset that we've always had. But it's just about shifting the story.
I'm glad you brought that up because that came to my mind. I think it was last week. I put out a post on Facebook that said, be kind to yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we're always like,
It's
be
true.
kind to people, be kind, be kind, be kind. But like you said, sometimes we can just be nasty to ourselves. And, that the number one person you need to be kind to have a better life is yourself. Start with being kind to yourself first.
Yeah. But Megan also mentioned something in regards to how we view ourselves is how we project ourselves to the world. So it really does start with us, because how others will see us starts with how we see ourselves. So that is very, very important. Now, Megan, I'm curious, if you were going to give advice, listen, we know that our industry, it really does struggle with bringing in the younger generation into our industry. We've gotten better. It definitely is better than it used to be, but we struggle with it. So I'm curious, if you were going to give advice to someone new that's coming into our industry, hasn't worked in the industry, they see that, hey, this is a great opportunity for us to come in here, and there's so many wonderful different positions that you can do. What would be your piece of advice to come into our industry and really make it the best for them?
Well, my advice would be to research the industry. So whether you know someone that's in the space that you can kind of tag along with, or, ask them about the various different positions, because who knows, maybe you want to come in and do marketing, or maybe you want to come in and originate. Maybe you want to be an underwriter. There's so many different aspects to this business that I think it's really important that you explore what all is out there. And, I think that would be my words of wisdom.
I think that's great advice. I mean, look at it. Even, Mitch and I love to put on these different webinars and things like that and get this out onto social. That's the beauty of right now, right? Right now, we're putting our industry out so others can see it and be able to see all these different opportunities. Like you said, I mean, if you're in technology, my goodness, our industry is the whole foundation is technology, right? And then, of course, we know the importance of marketing. And then, of course, you've got origination, you've got operations, you've got secondary marketing, you've got accounting and HR, and there's so many components. So I love that advice, because you can see who's out there on social, on YouTube, on all these different platforms, and then reach out. I can't even tell you, it always amazes me. I have people reach out to me that, I've never met before, and they'll say, can I just ask you a few questions? I will always say yes, because I always think to myself, I honestly didn't have the nerve to do that when I was in my 20s. Like, that would scare me, like going to someone that's been in the industry a long time. But I encourage everyone out there, what you just said, don't be afraid to reach out. Send a LinkedIn message, send a Facebook message. I mean, reach out, because we do want to support the next generation and bring them in.
And on the same token as that, I would say to anyone listening that does want to, get younger people into where they're at, whether you're trying to grow your team, what have you, take a look here at these two that we're on here with right now. They're putting out this podcast to get this message out there. You can do stuff like that. If you want to grow your team, create different videos talking about your company culture, create videos talking about the different positions within the mortgage company itself or whatever company you're associated with. Put these out there, share that so that people can get curious and, again, ask those questions.
Great advice.
And I'll go back to my beginnings in this industry, which, is a strange one. But to the point is, I was never afraid to do what Laura said, and that's reach out to people. Probably half of them were like, who in the heck is this guy? But, there were half of them that were like, okay, so let's see what this is about. And, there were many of them that were helpful, and, including Laura and yourself, Megan, in my beginnings. And I think you were on one of my very first, events, because I reached out and thought, hey, let's get some people in here that know what they're talking about, and put together a mastermind. And same thing with Laura. So, I think that's the key. If you're interested in this business, you're interested in any business, it's okay to reach out to people and ask them questions, because you never know what opportunity they may have available, or who they can introduce you to get you the information that you're looking for.
Yeah. And that goes back to that being curious too, right? That goes in every situation, whether you're in a leadership. Well, listen, everyone's in leadership, because if nothing else, you're leading yourself, right? So no matter what, leadership doesn't mean, you have 400 people working for you. Leadership has many definitions, but that be curious, what Mitch just said, asking questions, putting yourself out there, never be afraid of that. For anyone listening, regardless if you're starting out or you're a veteran in this a long time, stay curious.
Right. Well, let's go to your final one here, and let's tell people how you become a better listener, because we all think that at whatever part of our life we're in business that we know everything, So how do people that think they know everything start listening to others and get better ideas to better themselves in their business?
Well, first off, for those that feel like they know everything, they're probably also not a forever learner. So they could work on becoming a forever learner as well, and getting re-curious about their space. And remember, at the end of the day, we don't know everything. We don't, and we're never going to, because it's constantly changing.
Well, how many people probably said when Facebook came out, I don't need social media, I door knock, or I don't need social media because I have billboards, so those people you're talking to right now, what do you what do they have to do to become a better listener and like you said, a better learner?
Well, I've been saying forever that people need to do more social video. And I was saying that before COVID, and then COVID hit. And now all the people that didn't listen to me are in this same exact spot. But here's the good news, is that it's never too late to start listening. And I guarantee you, for most of those people that did not listen to me, it's because they had things like, I'm too busy, or I don't like the way I look, or what if people judge me? All these kind of insecurities come back up, which gets us right back to the fact, are you going to let fear drive the car, or are you going to let it take the back seat?
Love that. And I did give you a long time ago my line of, people's not liking to do video because they have a face for radio, right? So they have no more excuse. They can't use that anymore. The only thing audio anymore is podcast.
But don't you understand that every single person out there wants to see a reflection of themselves? And we all look different, right? So when we put ourselves out there, certain people will connect to us. Some people may not connect to us. But if we're nowhere, then you're nowhere. You're absolutely nowhere. And bottom line, people also want to feel your personality. And they can't get that personality unless it's in video. So you're really doing a disservice to those families and those clients and those partners that you're trying to serve if you're not providing your personality to them. They're only getting one piece of you, a flat piece of you. They want to see the whole thing.
Yep. And, at the end of the day, when it comes to being a better listener, I think a key thing too is just taking ourselves out of it. I think sometimes it's so hard to listen to people, especially, take example for like a meeting or something. It might be hard to listen to other people's ideas if you're very set in stone on what your idea is and how you want it done. But at the end of the day, we all need these people's visions and all of their ideas to really take it to the next level and make something that is super special. So at the end of the day, when you want to listen better, take yourself out of it.
Right. And I think a lot of people have a hard time listening to people that are younger than them. People have a hard time listening to people that are new to a company that, they've been there for 10 years. This new guy comes in and he's like, oh, we got to do this and you got to do that. And they're like, no, buddy, that's not how we've done it for 10 years.
And those are the best people to listen to. They're the greatest people to listen to because they have no preconceived notions. They're coming in fresh.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the best ones to listen to. But you're right, Mitch. It is hard sometimes, especially, let's take me, for example. Like I started the company, right? So it's always like, I'm like, but that was my idea 14 years ago. Well, obviously I can't think like that. You would never move forward, right? But sometimes people have that, right? They have that, oh, I'm holding on to this because it was my baby. Well, you have to watch your children grow and you have to watch your business grow, hopefully.
Right. Well, let's ask Megan this because Megan, I'm sure you did have this, starting in the industry, you're probably in your early 20s. When you started.
When you started.
When you started.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you started in the industry, how did you get over that when people are thinking, how did you get people to listen to you, I guess?
Well, first it had to get with me getting over that. I was so worried about people judging me, being, this girl's young. What does she know? Here's another millennial trying to tell us to do social media. Like, I need to work. Get out of here. That was just the conversation that was going on in my head every time I'd be like, man, that would make a really good video. I should post that. Or I really want to start building my brand and my business. I should, be more consistent. And I mean, it was with anything. It was calls when I would call a potential, person that wants to sign up for MBS Highway or a potential, company to get them aboard. It was all the same kind of thought process that was going on. So I had to sit down and I had to get really clear about my visions, my goal, my passions, my purpose, and why I wanted to do the things that I wanted to do, whether it was have that meeting or create that content for social media. And what I realized is that at the end of the day, I'm doing this because I want people to feel more confident and comfortable in whatever it is that they're doing. I want people to know that everybody goes through these certain struggles and here's how they did it. Here's how people went through their breakthroughs. Here's how people are bettering their business. Here's the success. I wanted people to reach those milestones. And if sharing your story really helps with that, sharing your story and what you've learned. And so at the end of the day, this fear that was in my head it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to determine whether I do something and go through with an action or not, because at the end of the day, I just want to help people and grow as well. And so you have to just get over that and you have to start creating the content. You have to start making those calls. You have to not be afraid to reach out to those real estate agents that are killing it in the game. You have to just get over it and do it. And once you start doing it, I'm telling you, it just builds your confidence higher and higher and higher.
Well, what I've always said is people don't want to do business with a business. They want to do business with a person.
Yes. Agree. And that's that personality again. You've got to allow your personality to show because that's that connection. And that's the differentiating factor, right? If we're all coming out saying the same thing, it's like, well, which person do I want to do business with? Well, the person that I can most connect to.
Right. Yep. And like you said, Megan, to your point of don't be afraid to reach out and do things differently because everybody's doing it the same doesn't mean you should do it the same. I've seen that obstacle many times in my career as a salesperson, and I've always went in a different direction than everyone else, and it's always paid off for me. So, when I sold to car dealers, people would call, they have to get a goal of 15 dealership sales a month, and they would call one dealership at a time. And I thought to myself, well, why don't I just call somebody that owns 15 dealerships? And I just get one sale and cover my quota for the month and then continue from there. So, you always have to think about how you can go outside of the box, like you said, and not be afraid to do that. Because like you said, if there's a real estate agent that's just killing it out there and you don't call them because everybody else is, well, guess what? Everybody's thinking that. So
That's
nobody's
right.
calling them to partner with them because they're all afraid to make that call. So you could be one of the 5 that makes that call, and you could be the one, that lands them as a partner.
Very true.
Absolutely. Megan, this has been phenomenal. As always, every time we speak to you. Now, of course, everyone's going to say, well, what's also happening in the market? So we all know this market is this market's strange, right? There's a whole new cycle of the industry here that we're in with this shortage of inventory. And listen, the thing I hear continuously is I have originators that are constantly updating pre-approval notices and forms so that people can continue to put in different offers that they're going for. So what is your recommendation? I'm not going to ask you about rates or that type of thing, but what do you recommend for those originators out there that are feeling a little bit of, okay, the refis aren't as many as they had. They still have them, but maybe it's not as many in their pipeline, and this heavy competition and keeping their families engaged and not having them lose hope. What do you recommend in terms of how to approach that, how to even handle that on social media?
Yeah. So for starters, you mentioned low inventory. We are at some really low levels of inventory right now, and it's making potential buyers very discouraged because they might be searching for a home forever. Or maybe they found a few homes, but they got outbid and they lost that deal. So the way that we want to market to those individuals is we want to focus on the reason that they buy a home in the first place. And if we think about the home buying process, well, it starts very visual. They go to Zillow, they start taking a look around, and then maybe they find a home that they want to go visit. They visit the home and they might become emotionally attached. They love the kitchen, the pool, the outdoor area. But the way that they ultimately end up buying that home, it's a financial decision. So if we market to them through that financial decision, that financial opportunity, well, it's going to get them re-excited and motivated to continue to look. So that is a great way that we can market to those individuals with low inventory right now. And as far as the refinance volume decreasing, which it's like the 9th week of decrease that we've seen now. They're making up 60% of total volume still, so still quite a bit. But with rates going higher, and we do see rates going higher, I know you didn't want me to talk about rates, but we do when we look at CPI and inflation. With that, they're going to continue to go down. And so individuals that are selling refinance right now, like if you've been selling refinance by, hey, rates are really low, they're at like the lowest levels we've seen. Well, now you're not doing that. But if you were, well, you can't market that same way because we're about to hit a point where rates are actually going to be higher than they were a year ago. And not only that, but everyone knows, the people that didn't refi are like, man, did I miss the refi boat? Well, the way that we market to them is, you guys know this, that there are so many different reasons that someone refinances their home. So market through that. Market through the fact that, hey, if we refinance your home and we pay off your debts using that equity that you've built in your home, I can save you this much per month. And not only that, but if you put what I'm saving you back into your mortgage, so literally nothing's going to change on what you've been having to pay every month. Well, we're actually going to shrink that time frame down and save you a whole heck of a lot of money as well. So we just have to market it in a different kind of way. You're not marketing the rate right now. You are marketing why someone would refinance and how consolidating their debt and restructuring that is going to be beneficial.
Perfect. That was great advice.
Right. And,
Awesome.
and I think with like you said, there is a shortage of housing, and it doesn't help when it comes to lumber and things
Yeah.
like that.
Oh,
A person I know that had an estimate on their house 1 year ago. They got approved to build the home, and when they started building, their estimate went up $35,000
Oh,
just
yeah.
in lumber costs alone.
That's right.
So, builders are going to have a hard time building homes to fill
mhm.
the gap in the inventory as well. So, there's a lot of things that people are going to run into when they're trying to close loans. So, like you said, finding a new way to pitch it is the key.
Mhm.
Great
But
advice.
also, a good news of all of this is that, with the refi going down, you should definitely focus on building your referral relationships with those agents, especially. And listen, right now they need you. There are more agents out there than there are homes on the market. So
Yep.
they need you. And now is a really great opportunity for all of you to really focus on building and solidifying your referral relationships.
Well, to that point, Megan, I think that people have been so busy as loan officers this last year that a lot of the top ones may have let some of their relationships with realtors slip.
Yep.
So it's time for some of these hungry LOs to go out there and maybe take some of those relationships
Mhm.
from the top producers because they don't have time to keep that relationship fresh, and they can sneak in there and be like, hey, this is what I can do to help you, and maybe be able to secure more loans that way.
Plenty of
Yeah.
opportunity.
Plenty.
Absolutely.
And I was just going to say too, one tool in MBS Highway that can really help with this is the bid over ask tool. We talked about low inventory. We talked about agents needing you. This can be really helpful in getting that client excited and also helping your agent seal that deal.
Awesome. I was actually on a podcast a week ago and we spoke about that feature. So that was awesome. Thank you for mentioning that. They said they were completely enlightened and it is making their life very, very easy for them to share with their clients. Love it. All right, Megan, you are amazing. Thank you so much for all of these insights. How can people connect to you? Obviously, learn more about MBS Highway. How can we learn more?
So you guys want to stay up to date with me, you can just text Megan, Megan, to 33777. And also follow me on Instagram. It's I am Megan Anderson.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Megan. We do appreciate your insights as always.
Thank you.